I am in Genesis 43 today. There's lots of nuggets in this chapter. I'm just kind of narrowing in on one bite of bread and feasting on it. My morning routine is to get up around 5:30. I do my Bible study until about 8:30. And then I go on my morning walk, so I do not rot in this season of grief. But anyway, come along. Let's walk and talk. This is my time to reflect on my study and grab hold of the takeaways, kind of process the application. And I'm glad you're here. Anyway, so this is just my takeaway, my perspective. God will correct me as I go along in this chapter and in the next few chapters, I suppose, if I'm a little off here. But I feel like the commentary I was listening to was getting the same thing. And so, yeah, just kind of an idea to throw around. But this little nugget is on fear. I don't know if you're like me. I've had a lot of moments recently where I don't want to go do the thing. I don't want to let go. I don't want to step out in faith because I'm afraid, and I can end up getting stuck and not stepping in to the blessings that God has for me, or the learning, or the growth, or the redemption, yada yada, because I don't want to let go of my comfort zone. And this is a big lesson for me in this season. I've had to let go of my latest daughter who passed away. She was 12, and I'm having to do a lot of things around that. It's difficult. It's really difficult. And so Jacob, I love Jacob's story. I resonate so much with him. And this is just a tender moment for Jacob. So Jacob is frozen in fear, I feel like. Just my observations again. The famine is getting worse. Simeon is still imprisoned. And the only path forward is the very thing he fears the most, which is letting go of Benjamin. I'm not going to read through this chapter, so I hope you'll go familiarize yourself if you're not already here with me studying. It's a good one, but there's a lot of context around it. But basically, this is where the brothers have gone to Egypt during the famine to get food. They run into their long-lost brother, Joseph. They don't know it's Joseph. And he's kind of thinking, well, how come all of y'all are here? Where's Benjamin? What did you guys do to Benjamin? Because I know what you did to me. So deliver Benjamin up or else. So they can't go get grain until they deliver up Benjamin. And they can't get their brother Simon back. He's in prison. He stayed behind. He was kind of the collateral, if you will. The guarantee that they're going to come back. And Jacob, he is so attached to Benjamin. You know, he's coddling him. It's this failure to launch. He's grasping onto him as his, sense of security, his favored child. And he's like, screw Simeon, I guess. Screw Simeon, I guess. Because I'm not letting go of Benjamin. And so there's this really complicated, multi-layered character kind of stuff that he needs to work out going on here. So, yeah, everyone around him can see what needs to happen, but Jacob cannot move. Fear has wrapped itself so much around his heart and so tightly that he's clinging to what feels safe, even while everything around him is falling apart. And I can relate to this. I had to let go of my 16-year-old daughter who passed of cancer. And yeah, it's hard. I can get it. I can relate. But what's interesting is that the obvious solution would have been for Jacob to go himself he was not too old or physically incapable, because later he makes the journey to Egypt himself. So I'm just wondering, why is the option never considered that maybe Jacob goes and takes Benjamin? Because I think the whole kind of tug of war here of, we're not going back to Egypt to get Simeon, because I'm not giving up Benjamin. I think the whole tug of war here is he doesn't trust his other sons. They've done too many things to kind of break his trust. And he's like, yeah, no, you already lost two of my sons. Why in the heck would I give up my favorite son, the last favorite son I have? But why doesn't he go down there himself then? Right? Why doesn't he just take Benjamin himself and take matters into his own hand, and he can go down there himself to ensure that the Benjamin's okay? But that's not considered. And I think it may be because Jacob remembers what happened the last time he went somewhere outside of where God had called him to be. So we remember a few chapters ago in Shechem is his coming short era. So God calls him back to this place, but he kind of stops before he actually gets to where he's supposed to go. And it's like this partial obedience/disobedience moment. And we learn the lessons back there of what that looks like when you do that. But yeah, so in Shechem, while he was in a place outside of the blessing, his life unraveled. Violence entered his family. Loved ones were lost. Joseph disappeared. There's basically this kind of unraveling that happens after he did that. And so since then, Jacob has lived under the shadow of loss and grief, and he's just kind of, in my observations, it's going to be more clear as I go on and as God speaks to me more. I could be wrong here, but he's kind of frozen in fear here. He's like, yeah, no, I know what happened last time. He has some bad memories, and he's not about to go repeat that. And you got to give him a little credit, because he's like, I'm not going to step outside of this covenant land where God called me, because I know what happened last time. And, I don't want to release my favored beloved son. I already lost one favored beloved son. The rest of y'all, I don't know. He's not so concerned about the rest of his children, which, is a whole other discussion. But he's just like, I don't want to. You can understand why. He doesn't want to release his son to these scary Egyptians. Who knows what they're up to. So he doesn't trust anything here. He doesn't trust his sons. He doesn't trust that this is the right path God is calling him toward. He doesn't trust the Egyptians who want to take his son. Yeah, so the fear that he is feeling here, it does that to people. It takes painful moments from the past and builds walls around the future. It convinces us that because something once went terribly wrong, stepping forward again will end the same way. This is why it's so important to renew our mind. We can get in these mindsets and we can get stuck. So, yeah, I just think in this chapter, like Jacob must be thinking, God, you gave Joseph promises. And look what happened to him. And now Benjamin, after everything Jacob's been through, feels like that last fragile thing that he has left to protect and hang on to. It's kind of this parental enmeshment, if you will. And that's become his sense of safety and security in a way, emotionally speaking. And so what does Jacob do? Jacob does what his old man has done before. He tries to manage the situation and control the outcome and preserve what feels safe. And I think we can all relate. I don't know. I know I can relate to this. But the very thing he is clinging to also is the thing preventing him from moving into what God is trying to do. God is going to bless him here. He's got so much blessing coming on the other side of this fear, but he's got to let go. He's got to loosen his grip. But okay, so we're going to get more into that. But yeah, sometimes we become so focused on avoiding pain that we can't recognize when God is trying to lead us into healing, into freedom, into blessing. Fear keeps us standing still at the edge of the very door God is asking us to walk through. But eventually, like we've seen before with Jacob's story, he reaches the end of himself. Yeah, in Genesis 43:14, after exhausting every option, Jacob finally releases Benjamin into God's hands. And he says, "May God Almighty grant you mercy before the man, and may he send back your other brother and Benjamin. And as for me, if I am bereaved of my children, I am bereaved." So here we see this is a surrender moment. And it reminded me of when he was having to face Esau. He was approaching him years earlier before this, and Jacob wrestled with God. Very popular part in the book of Genesis. And he wrestles with God through the night. And Jacob here is once again backed into a corner where control is no longer possible. He cannot scheme his way out. He cannot guarantee the outcome. He can only move forward, trusting God. And I want to throw in a little side note here, a little off topic, but I think it's important. Through Jacob's life story in Genesis, he toggles back and forth between his old man, named Jacob, and his new God-given identity, named Israel. And for me, what's kind of comforting, and I know that sounds weird, but it's kind of comforting to see Jacob go backward again here. And God still blesses him. And he's still with him. And it just reminds me that our God remains faithful and merciful and gentle with us through the process. And it's not about us and what we can do to earn his grace. And through this process of breaking these old ways of being, as we cut them off, as we break them off, even when the same character issues seem to resurface again and again through many different situations, after we thought we had overcome them, God is with us. And he stays there. And he's patient with us. And he's gentle with us. And I just think that's so comforting, because I don't know about you, but sometimes it's one step forward, two steps back as I surrender. And sometimes I gotta visit the same point of surrender again and again and again. And sometimes I'm like, sorry, God, I'm trying here. But it's such good news and such a good reminder right here that it's not us. It is Jesus Christ. It is because of him. And yeah, so anyway, yeah, so this is another Jacob surrender moment. And often, that's where the breakthrough begins, doesn't it? Jacob does not realize that on the other side of his fearful step is restoration, provision, reconciliation, and the fulfillment of promises that he thought died long ago. On the other side of this is his long-lost son, Joseph, his favored Joseph from his favored Rachel. This is going to be restored, this relationship. The brothers are going to reconcile. He's going to get to eat. They're facing starvation here. The covenant line is going to go on. I could go on and on and on. But yeah, anyway, before he can experience any of that, he has to loosen his grip on fear. and let God carry what he cannot control. So, anyway, sometimes I think that faith looks less like confidence and more like this trembling obedience. Sometimes it is preaching truth. They said this in the commentary. Sometimes it's preaching truth to your own heart when your emotions refuse to believe it. Sometimes that's what it comes down to. Sometimes it's simply taking the next step while we're afraid. It's taking the fear along with us and trusting God. They're in opposition to each other. This stagnant, stuck fear and trusting God and moving forward into his blessing. And sometimes we just have to pick up that heavy suitcase of fear and we have to move toward God, trusting that he's gonna meet us there as we step and pick up that suitcase and help us with it. But as long as we stay where we are, he can't really help us because we're choosing to hang on to that instead of giving it to God. And so, yeah, another takeaway, this one kind of inspired from the commentary. The commentary, again, is the Bible Show. It's really good. I'm really loving it. I've been listening to a few episodes. I just kind of hop around in my commentaries, whatever fits, where it fits. But yeah, I really like theirs. Theirs is really good. And they go all the way through Genesis, so I'm excited. I'm going to just probably stick with them through the rest of Genesis. But so one thing they were talking about is the furnace seasons. And these are the seasons where God is all we have to rely on. And they are often the places where our trust in him grows the deepest. And it's not because they're easy, but it's because they expose how little control we truly have and how faithful God still remains. So, all right, that is all the bite of bread that I'm going to take off this loaf here in Genesis 43 today. Thank you for coming along with me on my little walk and book report reflection.
I noticed here is that every time God is requiring you to move, you see Jacob here, you see Joseph, you see his brothers, all three of these different sets of groups of people have to face something in order to move forward. They have to face fear. Okay? Jacob has to face a fear of he potentially could lose another son and more sons. Like, he has no idea what's going on. It is the unknown. His brothers have to go do this thing. They don't know what's going on. They're just listening and like, this is what we got to do. That's also the unknown. Joseph, it's not so much that he's in control. He's actually working off of fear too. He wants to know where his brother is. There's a concern there. There's like, hey, what's going on here? There's fear in all of these people. Fear is definitely present. And the reason this sticks out to me is because a lot of people think when they're making decisions, they'll say, oh, I don't feel peace about this. I don't have peace about it. I don't feel good. I have to only face my fears when I am prepared. I have to be mentally prepared, physically prepared. There has to be a sense of peace in order for me to be able to face these obstacles. And I think about that with a lot of things that I go through and I don't feel peace about. And I'm thinking, well, I'm just not ready. I can't do that. I'm not ready for that. Like, mentally, I have to prepare. If I'm going to face one of my biggest fears, I have to prepare mentally days beforehand to be able to take it head on. That's still you trying to be in control. God is making everybody in this situation not be in control, because Joseph can't control if his brother is really alive or if they're really going to bring him back or what is going on with his family all this time. He can't control that. Yeah, he can tell them to go bring them, but he can't control the outcome of what they're going to do. He's just there waiting. The brothers can't control what's actually really going to happen. Can they trust this guy? And Jacob can't control what the outcome of him surrendering this son is going to do. The control is out of everyone's hand. There's only one in control. But I love how you said, but the obedience was still there, even when you don't know. Even when you have no clue of what is going to happen, how is this going to turn out? Jacob is letting go while he's feeling fear. He just has to trust. He has to let go of himself, of his old pattern, of his memories, of his anxiety. He has to let go and be obedient. So do his brothers, every single one, just in a different way, is being led through and worked through this situation. And that just really, just stood out to me, because we live our lives wanting to feel, I got to feel peace through this. I don't feel great about it. Yeah, but neither do a lot of, testimonies in the Bible. They're all having to face a fear. You all have to surrender it while you feel it. It's not the absence of fear that makes you feel secure in God. It's not that at all. In fact, it might be the most heightened you've ever felt the fear. And I just feel like there's just something to be, something to be learned there in our daily lives. Facing fear and the unknown when you don't have peace inside of yourself for it. There's no peace, but there's trust. But there's still trust, because you can trust God when you don't have peace and you don't, and fear is heightened and everything. You can still trust God and say, okay, I don't know how you're going to do it, but it's all you. It's all you from this point on. This is all you. And I noticed that God is having them let go of something to move forward. Joseph has had to let go of 2 coats, 2 identities. Jacob is having to let go of control of outcomes and keeping his son safe. He's having to let go. And the brothers are having to let go. Everybody is having to let go to move forward. You can't take that with you in the next season. Take it off of you. Take it off of you. I don't want it. God don't want it. Just take it off of you. Quit laying on that comfort. Pick up your mat and go. Pick up your mat and go. We got to move forward. We can't stay here. You can't stay stuck to this fear or what you became comfortable in. You got to let go. Don't mourn over the coat that was stripped off from you. The coat did its thing, what it was supposed to do for that season. It did its job. We as humans just want to hold on to it and never let go. I want to stay here. It's nice here. It's safe here. Getting stripped of this coat means I have to go through another pit. Are you kidding me? I'm fine right where I'm at. Even if I never elevate, I could stay right here. I don't want to get this coat stripped off of me. It's pretty. It's comfortable. And God says, well, if you won't take it off, I'll strip it off of you. You're mine. And I called you to do something else. He's calling all these people to leave something behind, to move forward. And they got something beautiful coming. They got something beautiful coming, but none of them will get to that place. Some of them have to face past mistakes. Some of them have to let go of comfort and old patterns. Some of them have to let go of control. That's kind of like what's sticking out to me in this scenario right here.